It's the Mio on MMA podcast. I'm your host, Mio, and we're here to break down UFC 285, which went on last night. I did miss the first couple of fights doing a commentary gig, but I've checked them out now. I've gone through it. We're doing this a little bit later in the day than I usually do, but it's going to be up on Sunday, so there you go. Well, what to say about that card? Heading into this card, obviously there was a lot of excitement. There was Jon Jones' return, 2 title fights, Bo Nickal with a lot of hype, Shavkat Rakhmonov with a lot of hype, and all that. But there were very few interesting fights, but we got some upsets because obviously we have a new women's flyweight champion, Alexa Grasso. Did not see that coming. We have a new heavyweight champion. We knew we were getting, barring very weird circumstances, we knew we were getting that because it's a vacant title. And that is Jon Jones. We got Rakhmonov with a win. Garry got a win. Jalen Turner got a little bit robbed just because I think the scorecards. I think there's a scorecard that Garbrandt could have won, but it was not any of the ones that the 2 judges that gave him the fight actually gave him. So there was that. Bo Nickal won. Cody Garbrandt won, although that proved to be like an example of like really, really unimpressive commentary and really unimpressive matchmaking. Dricus du Plessis won. Amanda Ribas won. Marc-Andre Barrio won. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. That's cool. That's fine. And Cameron Saaiman won. Tabatha Ricci, Loic Radzhabov, and Farid Basharat, all winners. Overall, I want to say I went 9-5 on this card. That's counting Gamrot as a win, which admittedly I just said I don't really think he did win. Let me just verify that. I should have done that math beforehand. Yeah, 14 fights, so I picked correctly on Rakhmonov, Gamrot, Nickal, Garbrandt, du Plessis, Ribas, Garry, Basharat, and Radzhabov. Yeah, so 9-5. Not a bad night, and considering one of my losses was something that I think a lot of people lost because, Valentina Shevchenko losing as a, what was it? What did she come down on? -900 favorite? I'm not going to exactly lose a lot of sleep over losing that fight. But what do I have to say about the main event? Jon Jones guillotining Ciryl Gane in the first round after some weird confusion with a foot wrap around his toe. They had to cut off basically the part that ran under his foot and over his foot. I was going to say, I knew you could have toe wraps, but I guess this goes in the similar vein to the ankle wraps. They can't be... There are dimensions, there are parts of them that are not allowed to... There are parts of the foot that are not allowed to be covered, whatever. Anyways, I guess that's what they got him on. And outside of kicking Jones in the dick, Ciryl Gane had no real effective offense. He got taken down, he got bundled over, basically gave up the guillotine right away, didn't even really fight it particularly hard, didn't look super tight. The replay did make it look tighter than it did live, but still kind of let down. And Jones is going to fight Stipe next, and I have no idea what you do with Gane. Because I was looking down and I'm like, almost all of the people, like, he's fought all of the, like, air quote, strikers, like people who are just going to kickbox with him, pretty much in the division, at least in like the top 20. So at some point, we got to get Gane to actually learn how to grapple and wrestle and not just be a one-dimensional kickboxer. He didn't have to be all well-rounded. Like he doesn't have to be a masterful grappler, but he has to be able to keep the fight on the feet in order to actually do anything. And I guess I'm going to go with Marcin Tybura for his next opponent because Tybura is due for something cool because Marcin Tybura has been, winning fights he's not, if we're being honest, supposed to win, particularly the Alexander Romanov fight, and then really kind of got punished for winning the fight against Romanov by being given Blago Ivanov. So, like, give him Gane. He's a guy who's going to try and take him down, but it's a huge step down from the guys who have out-wrestled him recently, at least on a physical level, if not a technical level. And I guess you can go with that. Now, let's talk about Jon Jones here for a sec. Does this performance make Jon Jones the GOAT? I'm going to say no. Now, allow me to be clear on something. If you had Jon Jones as the GOAT before this, and you have him now, that's fine. I'm not going to argue it. I'm not going to debate it. I'm going to say that in my books, there's an asterisk next to there because of the PEDs, but I'm not going to say that you're wrong, whatever. He is one of the, 5, 6 guys you could put at the GOAT, and I'm not going to argue with it. You could put GSP there. That's who I have. You could put Anderson Silva there. You could put Jose Aldo there. You could put Khabib Nurmagomedov there. You could put Fedor Emelianenko there. None of these am I going to complain about. I'm not going to object. You could put Mighty Mouse there. I'm not going to object to any of those. That's fine. It's an incredibly abstract idea who the GOAT is. But what I am saying is that if he wasn't there for you before, why does beating Cyril Gane, a relatively one-dimensional kickboxer, who I think we can safely say did not prepare for this fight in the manner that you would really would like to see him do, what does that do that wasn't there before? Because it's like, okay, he's a 2-division champion. Okay, but he's also one of the few UFC champions that is definitively not the best fighter in his weight class, because there's Francis Ngannou out there. I know people are going to be saying, like, GSP got his title against Bisping and whatever, but, Daniel Cormier won a 2-division title under, more difficult circumstances than this. Stipe Miocic, a worse stylistic matchup for him, and a guy who actually tends to seemingly adapt and become better, whereas, like, Gane, you can tell I'm a little bit pissed with Gane. So I don't really know how that puts him into any kind of higher GOAT status, if we're honest. Like, it's something to add to the resume. It's a good win. It does put him in that illustrious double champion standpoint. But I'm just not really digging it. It's also like heavyweight and 205 are like the weight classes we've seen the double up the most on. Because you have Daniel Cormier, you have Randy Couture, so on. It's just a very thin division. Also, Volkanovski, you could put him in the GOAT conversation, and I wouldn't really have a problem with it. You could put any current champion in the GOAT conversation. I wouldn't really have a problem with it. But I don't know. I don't think that this enhances the legacy of Jon Jones, this fight. I think it's just like Gane's not very good. And people were oddly confused. Now, it might be an act of being confused. Like, why does this fight make sense? Well, knowing it totally makes sense for Stipe to fight Jon Jones from a promotional standpoint. Stipe is a former champion. He does have a win over Francis Ngannou and a loss, but he has a win over Ngannou. You can put them in there. You can try to deflate the Ngannou balloon a little bit and push Jon Jones forward with the highest profile fight available. Because, let's face it, yes, should the winner of Curtis Blades and Sergey Pavlovich, who was the backup for this fight, be given the title shot in a fair meritocracy world? Absolutely. Absolutely. Stipe has been, out since losing to Francis, basically. He's been sitting on the sidelines in a contract dispute that I fully support, but it means he has not been active. He's also 40 years old and probably in decline, one would think, because he was never the most full-time a fighter, because he was a firefighting paramedic as well as a UFC fighter. So it's one of those things that makes a lot of promotional sense, but not a lot of merit sense. But it is the way to go, because if you let's say Eric Curtis Blades beats Sergey Pavlovich, and let's say that that's a number one contender fight, you would be advancing a guy who has lost to Francis Ngannou twice to fighting Jon Jones. And the UFC is very keen to eliminate the Francis Ngannou specter over this belt and reposition things as their belt representing the best heavyweight in the world. Something that they had enjoyed for some time and enjoy in most other divisions. So there you go. I hate to defend the UFC, but it makes a lot of promotional sense. Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso. I was impressed that Grasso won the first round, although I thought that it was just kind of like, I don't know, Shevchenko kind of finding her groove, I guess, because in the second and third round, she started working the takedowns, put her down, hurt her a little bit with the left hand in the third round, and easily took them. And then throws a terrible spinning back kick. Grasso takes her back and taps her out with a rear naked choke in the fourth round. It's kind of a weird one because, like, did this performance elevate my thoughts on Grasso? Not especially. Like, a little bit. A little bit. Like, I mean, I can't say that I didn't expect Shevchenko to, like, just crush her, and that didn't happen. But did she look especially sharp at range in a way that she hadn't before? No, not really. Did she look like she could stop takedowns in a way she couldn't before? No, not really. Also, just to quickly touch on a fight that happened earlier tonight, Amanda Ribas beating Vivi Araujo is a slight concern because, if we're being blunt here, Vivi Araujo was the person that Grasso beat to get this title shot. She has lost to Ribas now, and that win really doesn't age particularly well. But hey, she's got the belt, and she's going to get at least the chance to defend it, because either we're going to go with the Valentina Shevchenko rematch, which Valentina wants, and I could see them giving, but I don't really like. I don't particularly like automatic rematches just in general, and I also didn't really like that Grasso was getting this title shot to begin with, because, as I said, the win over Araujo just really shouldn't have got us here. The resume wasn't complete enough at really even including her strawweight work. And there were people who were in better position. I thought, like I said, in the predictions, this should have been the Santos rematch, which is what I'm advocating next for Shevchenko. Or it should have been Menem Furol. That's my opinion. Anyways, what I would do is Grasso versus Erin Blanchfield and Valentina versus Taila Santos too. That is what I would do. But there's not a lot more to say about this fight. It's a big upset. I just don't know if it's predictive of what we're going for in the future, honestly. Shavkat Rakhmonov with the standing no hooks, rear naked choke victory, bully choke victory over Jeff Neal. Fight went more or less like I thought it was going to go, but more competitive. Neal was able to keep standing and get up a little bit off of takedowns and actually, succeed in some ways. But the fact that he, is kind of repetitively doing the same thing. Left hand to the head, left foot to the head. Realistically, wasn't really going to really work against Shavkat Rakhmonov. He did stun him in the first round. He did hurt him. He was doing, again, okay. He forced Shavkat to strike with him predominantly. But he himself got hurt by Rakhmonov, and he got finished by Rakhmonov. So Shavkat continues to climb, even if this was a little bit of a weird matchup, in my opinion, just because it did feel like a very lateral move. And the problem is on a future booking, the two guys I want to see him fight are two guys who are probably going to refuse to fight. Bilal Muhammad, who actually I think really has earned the right to refuse that fight because he's fought a bunch of guys down and taken hard fights against Sean Brady and so on. I think he's earned a big fight that goes a little closer to a title than what Rakhmonov is. I would have personally preferred the Bilal Muhammad Gilbert Burns fight instead of getting George Masvidal mixed up in there, but well. And the other one would be Colby Covington, who I think should take the fight because, frankly, I think Colby Covington should actually have to do stuff to get back in the mix at a title shot. But what I think and what Colby Covington think on a lot of things, not remotely similar. So there you go. And for Jeff Neal, I actually have a pretty good fight in mind for him. Sean Brady. We saw Sean Brady kind of get worked by Bilal Muhammad, and like his hype train is kind of derailed. I don't honestly think Jeff Neal's hype train is going really anywhere. I think he's pretty much maxed out. So give him Sean Brady. Make it like a co-main or a main event on a ESPN Plus card. And there you go. I think that's a really good idea. Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalen Turner. All right, so I'm going to pop up the stats page for this fight. Haven't really touched the stats page otherwise because there hasn't been much to discuss. But I do think we need to look at it this one. I haven't actually looked at these stats. This is my first look. So, overall, Turner landed 40 significant strikes to 29. Total strikes did favor Gamrot, 89 to 62 because of the top control. 4 takedowns out of 12. Turner had no takedowns. 6 minutes and 52 seconds of control time for Gamrot. 32 seconds for Turner. Round 1, I scored for Turner. He landed a pretty nice... was this the round that he had the knee in, or was that the third round? No, I don't think it was. No, it was. It was. Yeah, he hit like a kind of step-up knee and got taken down off of it. Threatened a triangle. Gamrot rode out the fight on the round on top control. I don't really have a strong opinion as to who won the round. I think that's a pick'em round. It's a weird round that not a ton happened. But I think if you're emphasizing damage, the answer is Turner. I scored it for Turner. I have no problem if Gamrot takes that round. But here is the problem. At the end of this fight, we had 2 Mateusz Gamrot scorecards. And I'm going to pop them up here real quick. So, Judge Derek Cleary scored the first round for Turner, gave the fight to Gamrot. Judge Letherby gave the round to Gamrot and then had more or less my card for the rest of it, giving the fight to Turner. Judge Ron McCarthy scored all 3 rounds for Gamrot. McCarthy and Cleary's cards are wrong. I don't know how else to say that. This first round, you want to give it to him? Sure, fine. But like Cleary didn't even do that. This was the round that he gave to Turner. And that doesn't really make any sense because round 2, Turner actually knocks down Gamrot. He hurts him badly in the second round. Yes, I get it. Gamrot got 95 seconds of top control at the end of the round. He landed some nice ground and pound, but he got hurt quite badly on the feet and was definitively losing that round before getting a takedown that did not lead to much. This is a damage-emphasized criteria score system, and we could talk all day about whether that is actually the right call. I'm not actually sure it is, but that is the statement. Damage, effective striking, effective grappling. Control should be rewarded. Don't get me wrong. It should be rewarded in the absence or a draw on the other things. But it is farther down. And they gave it to Gamrot for basically having 90 seconds of top control with a brief crucifix and getting a little bit of ground and pound. Don't get me wrong. There was something there. But he got hurt badly earlier in the round. And he got hurt badly in the third round. I don't get it. The third round I could see going to Gamrot, though. I don't think he got dropped in the round. He didn't get hurt nearly as badly. Although now that I look at the stats, I think actually that is definitely Turner's round because he outlanded him 20 to 15 in total strikes, 10 to 7 and 6 strikes. And fended off 6 takedown attempts. I think also the third round is why I'm particularly angry about this because it felt like Gamrot was told he was up 2 rounds to none and then didn't really fight for a lot of that round. Like he just kind of went for like half-hearted takedowns, which Turner stuffed, and really just kind of danced away and didn't let things get engaged. So I'm distinctly unhappy with this one, despite picking Gamrot. There you go. Turner showed better defensive wrestling than I expected, but not much. I think when Gamrot executed the single leg properly, he got him down, and Turner is a good scrambler, is a dangerous grappler, everything. Like, his problem is not on the ground itself. His problem is just that he's going to end up on bottom a lot, because I still think he's notably bad at defending single leg takedowns for a top 15 lightweight. For next opponents, I have Gamrot versus Moicano, because in my opinion, this performance shouldn't be actually rewarded. He should have to fight somebody who's kind of knocking on the door of the top 10 in Renato Moicano, who's exciting, who's interesting. And if he can beat Moicano, fine, we can put him back on track. But like, this should have been a loss. And considering that he probably should have lost to Arman Tsarukyan as well, I would like to see him have to really earn like some stuff back. And I've been calling for Jalen Turner versus Joel Alvarez for a long time. I think that fight is actually increasingly making less sense, but like, it's super fun. Let it happen. These two are defensive messes in a lot of ways and offensive dynamos. So bring me that. Bo Nickal pretty much crushed Jamie Pickett. I don't have much more to add. Nickal's first strike in the UFC, I guess, is to fall on his ass. That was kind of fun because he threw a kick, slipped, and ended up on his butt. I really have nothing else. It wasn't the greatest like arm triangle choke of all time, but he clearly had Pickett very, very outmatched. The fight did exactly what it was supposed to do, and I still don't think it should have been on the main card. People have argued that it should have been on the main card. And I'm getting where they're coming from. This is the project. This is the guy that they're trying to shine the light on. My point is, I think you could have shined that light even brighter as the featured prelim. Because this is the thing. People are like, oh, well, more people watch the prelims than the pay-per-view. So that's why Nickal's going to be on the pay-per-view, because despite that being a bigger spot, the prelims are actually an important spot, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. You want more eyes on it. You want to get, like, new fans. Because, presumably Nickal taps into maybe like a certain level of like wrestling fandom that hasn't come over to MMA. Don't really know why, but maybe it hasn't. Bring them in, get them excited, and maybe they order the pay-per-view. Of course, they don't care about pay-per-view buys because they get a flat rate for the pay-per-view. But ESPN would probably like more pay-per-views. More pay-per-view buys, I should say. So, I don't know. I still think I would have put this on the undercard. For next opponents, I got Bo Nickal against the winner of Zach Cummins, who is somehow still around, and Ed Herman, another guy who is kind of in the somehow still around category. Because it's this, I don't know, it's the safest possible fight, and it's like, yes, we have seen Bo Nickal go out there, and we have seen him crush. He's 4-0, he's not looked in danger at any time, and I fully believe he is the real deal. This is not a non-believer scenario. I believe. But I don't think doing to Jamie Pickett what essentially Kyle Daukaus did is actually really worth a lot in terms of like where he is now. Like, he can absolutely go places. Like, dude looks like he's taking the right approach, the right attitude. He's obviously a stud wrestler. He's working on his submissions. Like I said, this wasn't the cleanest submission in the world. Wasn't the most properly executed arm triangle, but it got the job done. And he seems to be incredibly calm and ready to go. He doesn't have the nervous energy of like Aaron Pico, for example, or the insane need to do stupid stuff like Bubba Jenkins to just kind of bring out these lesser, admittedly, wrestling prospects who Bellator tried over the years. So I don't know. That idea has name value while being somewhat safe in a old man beat up kind of way. Pickett, I assume, just gets cut because what is the record for Jamie Pickett at this point in the UFC? Because I know he's lost, I think, 3 in a row. Yeah. Daukaus, Tia Lunin, and now Nickal. He beat Joseph Holmes and Leandro Staropoli, who are not UFC caliber. Lost to Jordan Wright, lost to Tefon Nchukwu, and currently has a record of 13-9. And keep in mind, before getting to the UFC, he actually went through Contender Series 3 times, losing to Charles Byrd and Punahele Soriano. Byrd, who ended up being a bust in the UFC. Soriano, who's been kind of let down. And then finally having beaten Jonathan Patti to get into the UFC. This is a guy who has essentially no signature wins at all. His best win is Staropoli. So, I mean, I don't know. If you got someone else to feed at middleweight to give a big moment to, I guess, you could use him. And I think, again, my problem with Pickett, because to be honest, I listened to myself back and it sounds like Jamie Pickett kicked my dog or something. It's just that Jamie Pickett is a guy who has all the physical ability that you would look for in a middleweight, but he mentally looks like he's terrified to be in there. And that's the thing is, I, as a fan, largely dislike watching fighters like that because I'm wondering to myself, why are they fighting? Why do they not have a better option? All these kind of things. And like, it just kind of is actually depressing considering the money in MMA and the money that Pickett made in this fight. Not spectacular. I know Dana White will say, well, he made more than you think he made. Doesn't really matter. It's not enough. Considering the CTE, the trauma, the physical damage taken, all that stuff, and the fact that he looks just mentally kind of terrified. I don't really want to see it. Cody Garbrandt banked 2 really low volume rounds against Trevin Jones, where Jones didn't do much. Garbrandt had some impressive looking takedowns. And then in the 3rd round, Jones finally actually stepped forward and threw some strikes and hurt Cody. But didn't have any real follow-up. And yeah, I don't have much more to say about the fight. This was the low moment for, I thought, commentary of this card because we've kind of been this before. I think a lot of times the UFC matchmakers, which is weird because if I was a UFC matchmaker, I would really want to know what kind of fighter I'm putting in there. I would really want to review the footage and at least like look at his other UFC fights at the very least. My God. And look at Trevin Jones and be like, this fight's going to be kind of dull unless Garbrandt gets unless one of two things happens. Garbrandt actually consents to like coming forward and like throwing a bit of a brawl into it, or Garbrandt wants to do some fancy showcase stuff. And I kind of thought the latter might happen, but it didn't. And we ended up with like just a very dull bantamweight fight. And how do you do that at bantamweight with how many interesting, awesome fighters there is? And that was your featured prelim. I don't. For all the talk about how like the featured prelim spot is actually a big deal, they went with Trevin Jones versus Cody Garbrandt, and the commentary is like, I don't know about this. Like, I'm used to seeing Trevin Jones do more than this. No, you're not. The man is an absolutely dedicated counter striker, reliant on getting finishes. That's what he does, and you may actually be able to hear a washing machine. I don't know, but it was not good. He even lost a round to Trevin Jones. Jones, I assume, gets cut because he's had 4 fights in a row that he's lost and not looked good in any of them. And for Garbrandt, I guess you do the Ronnie Yaya fight, which they've tried to do a couple of times, but it does feel honestly like the only safe fight that you can do with Cody Garbrandt if you're not going to give up on him, and you gave him the featured prelim spot here against Trevin Jones, so you clearly have not given up on him. And incredibly easy to hit and hurt. And Yaya will bring a fight to him and kind of let him be exciting on the counter. And I think it's perfect. And he doesn't knock anybody out. Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis. This was the first round that Brunson showed, hey, I'm the better fighter. Although, why did you pull a guillotine? I don't know, because Brunson caught a kick, got the takedown, got to side control. DDP scrambled up a little bit. Brunson went for a guillotine, ended up on bottom. Nothing really happened. We ended up with like this dual leg lock attempt where at least Brunson was going for a heel hook while DDP was trying to pull off a toe hold, which is bizarre. Brunson ended up rocking him, dropping him, looking for a rear choke, and just really doing a solid job in the first round. And then everything fell apart. I don't even know what to say about the rest of the fight, because it was Brunson getting hit, staggered with awkward shots, not looking good in any way. DDP never looks good. DDP lighting him up, stuffing a takedown. Brunson's leg getting absolutely messed up with a low kick to the calf. That calf kick continues to be a big problem. Brunson goes with a Superman trap, ends up getting taken down. Brunson ends up getting mounted by DDP, eating a bunch of stuff, and we ended up with a horn actually, or a towel actually getting thrown in. I don't know if it was a towel stoppage or if the referee stopped it. Let's see here. Yeah, no, corner stoppage. So yeah, the towel was thrown in with 1 second left in the second round. I'm happy about that, because you saved Derek Brunson from, he was not coming back in the third round. In no way, shape, or form was he coming back in the third round. There you go. I thought DDP's whole gimmick was like, I'm the only only me and Cameron Saaiman are the 100% Africans. We train in Africa. We live in Africa, blah, blah, blah. And then he's talking about how he's training with Killcliff. I get it. I mean, I get it, kind of. I've said this about the whole I'm the real African thing that he's got going on is, like, I sort of get it, but, like, I don't, unless you're going to just embrace being a heel, to use pro wrestling parlance, I don't really understand what this gets you. Like, I think realistically speaking, the people that you're trying to appeal to, I guess, are already watching and already cheering for you, and just because you're a white dude from South Africa. I don't know. Maybe I need to get RC on here to do a complex breakdown of race relations in South Africa. For his next opponent, I've got Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze, the winner of that fight. And for Brunson, he hasn't fought Jack Hermanson as far as I can tell. I should really actually give it a full rundown here. Has he fought Jack Hermanson? He's fought du Plessis, Cannonier, Till, Holland, Shabazian, Heinisch, Theodoru, Izzy. Nope, there is no real point he would have actually ended up fighting ya boy, Jack Hermanson. So, hey, why not do that? He's talking about retiring. I think he said 2 more fights. So, I'm not sure if that included this fight or 2 more after this. But anyways, let him do Hermanson. It's, I don't know. It's maybe winnable. But, like, I'm having a real hard time picking him in fights going forward. Vivia Rougeau versus Amanda Hibosh. Largely, this was a lot of 50-50 kickboxing on the feet. It was largely you go, I go. No real thoughts or ideas of how to hit a punch and then keep it going and turn on a little bit of more momentum. Araujo ended up jumping for a guillotine, ended up on her back. And that was basically the first round. Actually, I'm kind of curious. What were the fight stats for this one? Hibosh versus Araujo. Yeah. Hibosh landed 98 6 strikes to 46. Wow. And particularly the second round was fairly ugly because Hibosh ended up with 4 minutes plus of top control. She stumbled Vivi early, swarmed her, put her down. I didn't think she did enough to get a 10-8, but like 2 judges did give her a 10-8. And to be honest, if that became the standard of a 10-8 round, I actually probably would be happy with it, but I don't think it has been. And then the fourth round or the third round was pretty much the same deal, except Araujo didn't get super hurt and didn't end up getting control for 4+ minutes. That's about it. Essentially, Hebus was able to get takedowns when she wanted to. She was able to have the type of kickboxing fight that she's actually capable of having, and she got the win. There was nothing particularly weird about this one. I think a judge gave Araujo a round. Yeah, there it is. Judge Mike Bell gave the first round to Araujo, which I don't agree with. 31-18, 6 strikes, 48-43 to 35 overall. It was her best round, but it was a round that she lost. There was at no point any significant momentum in Araujo's favor. She was unable to get the job done here. And I've got Hebus versus the winner of Casey O'Neill and Jennifer Maia. And I've got Araujo versus Meatball Molly McCann, because she's still around. And this feels like the most relevant fight you could give her without it just being a complete slaughter. By the way, Hebus had a bunch of call-outs, and she's always super bubbly, super entertaining on the mic after the fights. She wanted Carla Esparza at strawweight. I don't really see the point in that fight. She called out some top contenders at 125. That's what I've elected to give her. You could go higher than O'Neill versus Maia. I just think everyone's kind of locked into plans right now. Julian Marquez had a good first round against Marc-Andre Barrio. He actually had some really good success when he went on the front foot, pumped the jab multiple times, worked in combinations. It was good. It actually put some hesitancy in Barrio. Barrio does not like it when you don't give him the front foot. But Marquez kind of still showed Marquez. He's trying to become a more technical kickboxer. But he still wants to like move in and like do spinny stuff. He spins a lot. And it's a bad idea. And we're going to talk about that with Farid Basharat later as well. But there's a lot of like just needless spinning that didn't really do anything. And then he gassed. And in round 2, Barrio's like, all right, so I'm going to put the pressure on you. I'm going to light you up. I'm going to hunt you against the cage and just start unloading hockey fight style. I'm going to show you the Canadian pastime of the hockey fight. And the stoppage probably came too late, but I don't know. It's terrible. I don't really know what to do with Barrio because the first round of this fight doesn't actually inspire me a ton of confidence. He kind of needed Marquez to explode. And he had that bad performance against Anthony Hernandez, so I'm going to say give him Jacob Malkoun, who, in hindsight, his loss to Brendan Allen looks better. Although I guess also in hindsight, his win over Nick Maximo looks worse, so I don't know. And for Marquez, Puna Sariano, they're in the same boat, where they're guys that there's nothing physically about them that could stop them from being really solid fighters. They're got good gas tanks. They got power. They're a little bit wild. And I don't know, let them go out there and do their thing. And one of them can move back into kind of the middle pack, and one will slide even further down. Ian Machado Garry versus Kenan Song. Outside of getting dropped in the first round, this was pretty good for Garry. He was up. I had him up 10-8 in the third round before he finishes him in the last minute. Boom. Dropped him. Got the job done. There was a big discussion in one of the Discord servers I'm in about Ian Garry and like the hype surrounding him and whatever. And here's the thing: if you just are cheering for him because he's a Cage Warriors guy, awesome, cool, fine. But there are a lot of people that like And I don't mean Ian Garry, because like I accept that fighters are going to hype themselves up and talk about being the next champion and whatever. But like, there still is nothing about Ian Garry that actually has me buying him as a champion. I said in the preview, in the analysis, and I stick by it. I just don't think he has the killer edge that he needs to make his style work at the very top. You know, he soundly beat Kenan Song here, but Kenan Song is not super great. And it kind of shows because I'm putting Song against Johan Leonis, who, for a Canadian fighter, I crap on a lot. And for Garry, I've got, I don't know, maybe Matt Semmelsberger. He needs to step up, though. Cameron Saaiman versus Mano Martinez. This fight was a largely... I picked Martinez in this fight, and I was let down by the fact that he didn't really fight to the things that Saaiman is weak to. He didn't really try takedowns. I want to say he had like 0 takedown attempts, but I could be wrong. Let's see here. Let us see here. Cameron Saaiman. Yeah, Martinez 0 for 0 on takedown attempts. Didn't even really pressure or utilize the clinch all that much. He consented to have Simon's type of fight with him. Got his legs kicked out. 28 for 35 on those. Got work to the head as well. And just kind of outworked in general. Got kicked in the nuts twice. And Saaiman had a point taken away. But otherwise, I scored all 3 rounds for Saaiman. So a 9-9 first round. 10-9, 10-9. There was a 10-8 third round on one card. Do kind of want to look at the box score on that, so to speak. Okay, yeah. On paper, it looks like it was a lot more one-sided than... I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch that round. But, I don't know. I'm still not actually impressed with Saaiman. Like, the win essentially came down to... I don't think Mano Martinez fought right. And probably moving from Glory MMA and Fitness to a new gym probably didn't help. He is a low-end athletic talent in the division. I've got Saaiman versus Haile Alatang, or Alatang Haile, and Martinez versus the winner of Johnny Munoz, Daniel Santos, whoever saves their job. Tap of the Ricci, armbar, Jessica Penne. I don't have much to say about that. It was kind of sad. Just because, I don't know, Penne doesn't look like she wants to fight much anymore. A lot of the fight was her getting taken down, Ricci standing over her, landing kicks to the legs, not letting her up, going back down, not getting a lot done, getting back up, kicking her in the legs again. And then getting a pretty cool armbar finish and whatever. But, like, I don't know, Penne should probably retire. Ricci versus Loma Lukbumi in a battle of probably the 2 girls who, like, most would be fighting for an atomweight title. Farid Basharat versus Damone Blackshear. This was pretty fun. This was fun. Basharat, in comparison to his brother, does appear to be a bit of the Micah Miller of the combination. Now, what I mean by that is that if you remember back when Cole Miller and Micah Miller were a thing, they looked super similar. They had super skill set, very similar skill sets, same victory conditions. I think that's the same with Javid and Farid. I think the difference is Farid is not nearly as comfortable in a fight as Javid is. Javid looks basically unflappable. He looks like a guy who is comfortable doing the fundamentals and working to a game plan and taking an opponent apart. And Farid likes to do, like, gets nervous and does, like, spinny stuff. And he got the job done here, winning the first and the second round against Blackshear. But I think that has a lot to do with Blackshear's lack of fight IQ. I'm not saying he won't go anywhere. I think he's a very good fighter. I just think that while he has the same athletic and even technical skill set that his brother has, his brother is built for this in a way Farid isn't. It's kind of weird because he's got that ferocious nickname. I'd like to see a little more ferocity. But, like, good wrestling, good volume kickboxer. He needs to not do the spinny stuff because, now here's the thing. You can do the spinny stuff. I do the spinny stuff when I spar. But you got to build it into something. And whenever he would, like, do a spin or whatever, there was nothing to disguise it. And Blackshear is now 0-2, trying to get that first win. I got Blackshear against Luna Lacerda. I think he's got plenty of legs in the UFC's division. He's a good offensive wrestler, bad defensive wrestler. He scrambles like a madman. When he turned up the pace and the aggression in round 3, his striking started to come together. And for Basharat, I've got Ricky Tercios because that might be the funnest thing to do with Ricky Tercios. Loic Razabov versus Esteban Ribovic. Ribovic looks pretty good. I thought particularly his second round was really, really solid. He was able to hurt Razabov pretty well. Pretty frequently, but he got hurt himself. And honestly, I think the problem for Ribovic is, one, his takedown defense is not very good. There were some considerably non-setup takedowns that Razabov did get. Now, Razabov is a good wrestler and all that, but good wrestlers at bantamweight are really common. Or lightweight, pardon me. This is a lightweight fight. Lightweight, although to be honest, to be clear, anything I say about lightweight probably actually does apply to bantamweight too. Two supremely deep divisions in the UFC and in the world. You could find like solid fighters in those two weight classes at any promotion, no matter how small regional it is. So anyways, he really needs to work on that. He needs to work on his defensive striking because he got hurt a number of times by Razabov. I like his Kimura stuff, but he's got to stop thinking that that's going to be the way that he dominates grappling exchanges. Because he might catch it every once in a while, but like once everyone gets like really studied up on it, no. You got to be able to deny the takedown, stay on the feet. His stand-up looks offensively fairly okay. Well-structured, clean. But the fact that he was only able to hurt Razabov a little bit, and Razabov is not a good striker in his own right, very loopy, very open, is a little concerning. But Razabov, I gave the first and third round to. And he looks, I don't know, he looks pretty okay. He'll be here for a while. I've got him against Nazim Sadikov because I have a lot of questions about Sadikov, and Razabov does bring those questions to him in a relatively veteran, calm package. And Ribovic I got against Alex Lecco, aka Alex De Silva, because De Silva probably needs to try to save his job. And it just would be a fun fight, I think. And it would be a fight where, like, I think Lecco would actually admit to or concede to having a kickboxing match with Ribovic. And that's probably the funniest way to have to do things. Ribovic has the higher ceiling. I said this about, like, Prado. Francisco Prado, I think. The guy who fought Jamie Malarkey off the Argentinian scene. Like, athletic, get him with a good gym. He's apparently with Killcliff. And, I think he'll develop into something actually quite good. There's a lot of work to be done, but I trust that it will be done. Interesting on this one. A lot of PFL shoutouts from John Anik on this one. We are past the point where, like, UFC commentary ignores other promotions, which they did for a long time. But it was a little bit interesting to see them shouting out Russ Mafio quite so much because he had beaten Razabov and is still in PFL. So I don't know. That was interesting and a bit neat. Not a lot of mentions for Francis Ngannou on commentary though, at all. We did have the usual Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier got to talk about like scoring criteria without apparently having much of a clue of what it is. Again, it's on paper. We talked about it with the Turner Gamrot fight. I don't know why it annoys me so much, but it does when they get hung up on that and the whole idea of damage. Although that's more of a Dominic Cruz thing. Anyways. If you check out the description of this video, you will find where you can find me from a gaming standpoint, Twitch, YouTube, as well as my Discord, social media stuff, and so on, and other homes for this podcast. It is currently available on Acast, Spotify, and Anchor in pure audio form, and it is uploaded to YouTube as well. I bid you, gentlemen and ladies, a good evening.